Everybody, welcome back to this second part of today's weekend video review. Today is March 25th, 2018. It's the start of week 13, and this video is part of the FibStalker analysis and trading service. As usual, I ask you to review and accept the disclaimer. Past performance is not indicative of future results, and trading forex carries a high level of risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Please pause and read the disclaimer now. All right, so let's continue here with the analysis, and we're looking at the main markets here, and then we will transition into the other markets. Now, the Australian dollar, Canadian dollar, important development at the end of last week. This market just came into the 99.08. This is the 50% ambush trade here after this market has traded very technically here, lows to highs 50% into the first target, aggressive move failed, and now we are back to an area of potential participation. Here is the 99.08. So if this market continues, this market has support on the monthly here, the 99.62 has traded. This has targets above that have not traded yet, and so this market could be trading the 50% that might bring price higher here. This is also a lateral move here, so we have to be very careful. Both outcomes at the moment are possible, okay? But for now, this level is respecting support. The Canadian dollar Japanese yen came into a 50% long, as we have been anticipating in the last few months here, and the last 3 months this market came right to trade into that 81.86, and this actually confirms this market is very technical. The monthly 90.65 has traded, pushing price lower. It has targets below, but at the moment the 50% long that has been holding back in the first part of 2017, it's still holding here, and this could actually reverse prices. Okay, so one confirmation we could get from the failure of this 50% that has traded here, and we can see that held, and that has traded again 82.02. So on the daily time frame, if this market moves above the 82.37, then this area of participation here is confirmed, and we could see higher price. We don't have to do the heavy lifting here. Let other people do, let the big money do the heavy lifting if this market has to reverse, and then we will participate on the next measure move. Also want to remind that this market has not traded the 50% short, so the new 50% short here, extension short, is going to come at 83.65. so if we get a reversal and then a pullback, that would be an opportunity to bring price into 83.65. Euro, Australian dollar, this market has continued higher here after trading the first target of the larger measure move, the 144.29, and there are inner measure moves here that are in play, and the inner measure move, the 152.66, brought price into the first target. Now there are two targets, and that's what we have anticipated last week. At the beginning of the week, we mentioned that this market could continue higher. I didn't do any review, midweek review last week due to health issues, but we don't need to do that sometimes, because the larger time frame is going to dictate the move in the market. And the what happened here is that the first target has been hit. Now there are two targets above. There is the second target of the larger measure move and the second target of the inner measure move. So definitely we could see some profit taking in this larger level, 162.18, as we anticipated at the beginning of last week. Euro pound, the nonsense continues here. There was a strong move lower, however, which completed the move, a move in the last 3 weeks here, and as you can see, 86.90 has been pierced again. Shows a bias, a downward bias here in this market, which is also confirmed by the fact that the 50% short here, the 90.24, has traded, pushing price lower, and that's what we are seeing here in this market. Okay, now if we get a retrace here, we would look at an extension, and one logical level to look for an extension is the 87.58. We need to check whether this level 87.53 has traded already, and sorry, that's 87.56, so this has traded already. If this level is tested again, there'll be a second test, and if it holds, we would see a continuation lower in this market. Okay, but this market could continue from here because that level has traded already, and 50% of course had already failed, and now this market is printed at lower lows. So in a way, it's getting closer and closer to the first target of the 50%, 90.24. Euro Canadian dollar has seen a little bit of selling here after testing two things, previous highs and these two targets. This was the second target of the other measure move here, and the second target of in the measure move. So both these measure moves have been completed, and this market is now due for a retrace, and that's what we are seeing here. So we have the two levels we have to watch are going to be the monthly extension here, and there is also an inner extension that is a little bit closer, and it's easier to see these levels on the weekly time frame here. So we're going to remove all these levels here and clean up a little bit, and this market is going to show the next move here. Now that that second target has been hit there, the larger measure move comes from this high here. Okay, and if the market finds participation at 157.06, then you're going to see a continuation higher in this market into the next levels of targets. So this is the area that you want to watch, this week. And as you can see, this market in any case has the potential to continue higher. On the larger time frame, there is a trace here that has targets above, and that has not held before, but that at some point at the beginning of 2017 that has held, and it has targets above here. So there is a case from the larger time frame for a continuation higher into that first target. After what? After a test of the 157.06. Okay, so that's what we're looking for in this market. Euro, Japanese yen. This market has pierced, as you can see here on the monthly. We can see that on the weekly as well. So there was this basket setup, went into the first and second target. The next extension long as initially held, and then it pierced on Friday here, and now we have other levels that we have to consider here for a continuation higher. That would be the low of the before the gap here, and that would be the 128.25. So let's see if the market is going to trade into the level, and if he finds support at that level. Okay, that's what we can say about this market. Euro New Zealand dollar, this market has been moving laterally here, apparently below resistance. That resistance then, which is an area of participation short from smart money, has been pierced, and but on the long side here, when we trace the lows to highs, we can see that also bulls were not initially capable of holding this price. Now that said, at the beginning of 2 weeks ago, we also saw that same level start holding here at 168.15, and that actually that move higher has pierced again the 71.18. The point is, the truth is that this market is in a large lateral move here, with bulls not holding, bears not holding, and so we could see continue more move, and this could continue lower into 168.15 this week, a continued sideways move in this market. Pound versus Australian dollar went to trade that first target, monthly and weekly target here, that we identified a few weeks back, in fact at the beginning of the year. And as you can see, despite the presence of this area of resistance, this market went right into that first target, trading to the pip, and now we are seeing profit taking here. So there are two levels we have to look at. One is the 50% of the this move, which is an extension and has targets above, and of course, if this market corrects deeply here, there is a much lower level here, but I won't consider this level for now. Many things have to happen before we get there, and the last 2 weeks move here has been very strong, and as you can see here, this move here brought price also of this extension into the first target and above. So there are a number of levels that we can consider here. The closest level is going to be the 181.94. There is also an inner measure move here of this move higher for a continuation. So there are two levels that we have to consider for a continuation higher here in this market. Okay, the first one would be, and I'm gonna remove the inner move here. The first one is gonna be in 181.92. The second is 180.95. If the market gets there, you could see a continued participation higher in this market. Okay, this market is acting very strongly here on that extension long that we identified at the beginning of the year. Pound versus New Zealand dollar. This market has corrected higher here, and basically showing the same pattern that the pound versus Australian dollar is showing here, with the 50% extension long trading at the beginning of the year, and then there was this inner move that was not really respected, so we cannot really say a lot about it. There's a 50%, you know, it would be a long way to retrace into the level. After this strong move higher, this market could come and trade an inner measure move on the daily time frame. That's a level to consider for a potential bounce and continuation higher. A pound versus Canadian dollar. So this market also has continued higher. As you can see here, many of these markets have went to trade that second targets. We have indicated these targets at the beginning of the year, so it took around 3 months, almost 3 months, to get to those targets. The good news is that now, you know, we have a very clear path for a continuation here, and if this market comes back and trades into the next extension long, that's going to be a solid level to time, because you know, it comes from a very large time frame here, and if that happens, the 179.39 is going to be a very important level to watch in this market here, and could be the next continuation higher long in this market. Okay, that could actually continue higher and challenge previous highs here. This market is also trading 50% short here, so we need to be very careful. This will also be a test of the participation from the weekly time frame. Pound versus Japanese yen. We've seen strength in the pound, but also strength in Japanese yen here, and this correction lower that we've seen in the last few weeks brought price into what? Brought price into that next measure move. You remember that we had lows to highs trading 136.58, price into that first target, and the next measure move has come into play here in the last few weeks, as you can see. So there is support from the weekly here for a continuation higher, and the move in the last 2 days of the week brought price into the 50% long that has been respected on Friday, as you can see here, and the market has opened above that level and it's now pushing higher, and we have a target above 151.54 that is actually aligned with also with the positioning of the weekly time frame here, 146.15 long in this market. New Zealand dollar, Canadian dollar. This market here, it's reacting strongly higher here, and we need to identify the level that is trading here. This is not an obvious level, and it's likely to be an extension, a jumping extension here. The 93.16 could be the candidate here on the weekly time frame, and that is what could be justifying the continued move higher in this market here. Okay, so that would be the high from this bar here, the high of this inner bar here, two new highs. That's what at the moment is pushing price. Let them do the heavy lifting here, and then this market might offer opportunity for continuation higher, although it's in a lateral move here. Let's continue here with the Australian dollar Swiss franc. So this market has not traded the 50% long here, which is this level, the 71.84 that we see here. We anticipate the level eventually coming for a test. We identified a setup at the beginning of last week. It's an extension short that at the beginning of of the month actually, which has traded here in the last 2 weeks. We are seeing a reaction higher, but this has first target at previous lows well into that 71.84. So that's where we could eventually see this market. Okay, so this may be a reaction higher for this market, and not necessarily the start of a move. The next measure move short on the daily time frame, it might have traded already 73.29. If retested, there could be an area of resistance for this market. Australian dollar, Japanese yen, on the other hand, has pierced a 50% that was relevant on the daily time frame here. When we look at the full 50% here, 81.30, the partial range from July 2016 here, on the weekly, we see that the market is still within that area, and the next measure move though here on the daily that held before now has failed, as we can see here, and we could see a reaction higher in this market. Okay, so this market might be reacting higher as profit taking, as well as because it's trading on top of a large weekly time frame here, and this could be this market could move higher for some time here before a continuation lower as well. But all the options here are open at the moment, so we need to wait and see whether this market will be pushed on the upside. The the Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar here, the market is still continuing lower into potentially the lows here, and the sequence of measure move higher has failed. We have a 50% short here on the weekly, and market keeps pushing. The first target has been hit, keeps pushing into that second target that could be reached in the next 1 to 2 weeks here, as this weakness here continues in this market. The Canadian dollar Swiss franc also has pierced an important 50% level here after trading shorts, and so shorts on the larger time frame here are in control. The 61% level, profit taking here potentially, with the possibility for this market to trade or retest again now the 74.20, and we will see whether that is going to act as a resistance again. It has acted as a resistance during March here, 24 to 74.20. If retested successfully, this could be an opportunity in an area where to open new shorts here in a continuation lower. Euro Swiss franc has traded an extension long that we have anticipated last week. There was the highs to new highs here, and that has traded, and as you can see here, this has been respected, and this week this market started the end of last week, and this week this market has started very strongly here. The extension it can be seen on the daily time frame here, from highs to new highs. The week before we had it from highs to whatever highs were printed. We updated that. We should have updated that, and that's where we found participation on Thursday and Friday. Now the market is continuing higher. Okay, pound versus Swiss franc, similar situation here, with a continuation higher, coming from a level that is not as obvious as the level that we're seeing on the euro, which is always much more technical, but it came from a higher level, which was a jumping extension here, and that has been identified by this high here. It's something that we could identify after the fact. The level was retested successfully, and it now has first and second targets above, and as you can see here, the second targets lines up with the larger 50% long here, which is this level here, which is traced from lows to highs, which came into play, and it has targets above. So this market keeps moving higher, and in alignment with the measure move that actually have been in play on the larger time frame. Okay, first and second targets of these measure moves are above 137.92 being the first target. New Zealand dollar Swiss franc, we've seen the same patterns, similar patterns in these markets, and the New Zealand dollar Swiss franc has been more sideways here, and we're using this extension on the monthly from highs to highs, which came into play mid-17, end of 2018, and now the first part of 2018. And this market is not as technical as the other markets though, and let's see and we can see that when we trace the traditionals here, as you can see, there is no participation. So this market has support from the larger time frame, but it's very is moving in sideways fashion here, with bulls and bears failing one after the other, so not really something that gives us an edge And finally, I'm going to cover the New Zealand dollar Japanese yen here, which went to test a 50% long as well, still within that area, monthly, weekly longs, and it's actually showing a support here, and if that holds, this market could go back basically to the previous size, because this is a range, so we anticipate 50% not holding in these markets. They have not hold before, and they may not hold. They may not hold now. They have not held before and may not hold now. So again, we'll need to wait here and see what happens in this market. It's finding participation on top of this area here. It could certainly be timed using the FibStalking timing, even on the larger time frames here. And as we can see, the next level and the confirmation would come above the 76.86. All right, so this is it for this second part of the review, and I'll see you in the room. If you have any questions, please feel free to write them, and we're gonna trade this week together. Bye bye now.